Here it is. All right, welcome to another stream here. I'm joined by Detective Comics here, fellow DC fan, and a sane, rational person. So this ought to be a good stream here. So, yeah. What do you want to talk about first? Obviously, we were talking a little bit about the whole Justice League fiasco and stuff like that before I clicked the thing here. But do you want to talk about that Godzilla release date? Because that news dropped just a couple hours ago. Is that you want to talk about that first?
Yeah, well, thank God that did drop, because we'd have looked so stupid if we sat here and spoke about, the Snyder Cut and Godzilla coming out at the same time. But first of all, Alex, thanks for having me on. Hello?
No problem. No problem.
But yeah, well, obviously the news just broke there that Godzilla versus Kong is moved to 31st of March. Now, we still don't have an official release date for the Snyder Cut, which is crazy considering we're literally weeks away from the cut being released. But it seems like it's going to be March 25th. There's been some rumours over the 18th, but it sounds like March 25th would make sense. But Kong and Godzilla, I think that's still going to come out theatrically on March 25th for anybody that can actually get to the theatres. So that's still, still a bit of competition.
Well, I'm gonna pull up the Deadline article right here that talked about it here. Godzilla versus Kong to open closer to Easter, which is funny because isn't like Justice League all about the resurrection of Superman? It's funny that they put Godzilla and Kong closer to Easter. Yeah, they talk about James Wan saying here. I don't know why. But yeah, where is it here? Where is it? Meanwhile, legendary Godzilla vs. Kong is going 5 days later, domestically Wednesday, March 31st, not March 26th. Though foreign markets will debut on that day. So it's still coming out in your country on the 26th. At least that's what this is saying. Yeah, but that's about it. We don't know exactly when the Snyder Cut's coming out, but a lot of people are saying March 25th. And that was a big thing about these movies being too close to each other is Warner Brothers trying to bury it. And we got some people joining. Jose M says you sound like retired. That's funny because that's another guy that lives around your area that I talked to on this channel. So yeah, and you do sound like him. So it's not him, guys. It's another dude. I promise. What's
Undercover.
Up, but yeah, so a lot of people are, they were thinking Warner Brothers is trying to bury the Snyder Cut with this Godzilla film, right? What are your thoughts on that? Yeah. Because I have some thoughts on it, and I don't think it's as sinister as people think. But what do you think?
Well, from what people I've heard have said is it was more of a Paramount decision. They were wanting to front load the movie to the Easter weekend to try and get that money in over the Easter holiday. Of course, over here in the UK, we're in complete lockdown, so we won't get to the theatres, so it's not really going to make a difference towards us. But I can see why the Snyder fans, who, no offence, they've been building up to this movie for 3 years now, a year since it's been confirmed. These guys are desperate for this movie to work. They're desperate for success for Zack Snyder, and they're looking for anything point at and go, Warner Bros. Don't want that to work. Warner Bros. Want this to fail. I think it's too easy to look into this and go, Warner Bros. Are trying to set it up. Warner Bros. Are trying to undercut the Snyder Cut. I think that is bigger issues. I think it's more Paramount. And I think the Snyder Cut now, it looks like it's going to get at least 5 days to itself. It's going to get the opportunity to be on its own out there. And it's going to get the opportunity to live and die. Is it going to be a success? We should know relatively quickly if it's going to be a success. But then again, these guys have been bigging this cut up for a long time. Would Godzilla and Kong, the way you're led to believe the Snyder fan base is, would that not outweigh Godzilla vs. Kong? I don't know. I don't know. It's just the way these guys are making me believe, how big the Snyder Cut's going to be. And it kind of shows you, when they're getting fears like that maybe they don't really believe how, their fan base is actually as large as they initially thought it was.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Snyder Cut is just for the hardcore people that have been following it for years. That's why a lot of the marketing hasn't really kicked up for it, right? We only had like one trailer for the Snyder Cut, right? And it's like a month and a half away, really. Well, 2 months, kind of. But
Mm-hmm.
I can
Yeah,
imagine
it's
we get
weeks.
like
It's
one
8 weeks.
trailer. Yeah, weeks, yeah. So like maybe one more trailer and that's it. But it's surprising that they're not really pushing it at all. And they're instead like pushing Godzilla vs Kong because that's a movie that could appeal to the masses and it's what a movie the world wants to see right now. And the Snyder Cut is for the hardcore fans that have been asking for it. So I don't think it's a very sinister thing that these movies are coming out around the same time. I think like Warner Brothers is trying to give everybody something to watch around that time. And it's a 4-hour movie. I mean, I expect the hardcore people to watch it, but it's tough to expect the casual fan to sit down and watch the Snyder Cut for 4 hours. Unless they're really into it, right? Like, or what are you guys saying?
Yeah, what I'll say is the moment I believe the moment the Snyder Cut was in real trouble was the moment they announced it was going to be the 4-hour cut. Instantly in that moment, you turn off the vast majority of general audience viewers. Not a lot of general audience viewers are going to sit down for a movie 4 hours long. That to their eyes, it's a movie they've seen before. To us, we know it's going to have big differences. We're into this stuff. We've been following it. But if you go and ask, just Joe Blogs on the street, as you would call it here in the UK, but if you go and ask that person in the street, they would turn around and say to you, "Oh yeah, I'd already seen that film. I seen that 3-4 years ago." And as much as you can explain to them, no, it's a new cut, and the director's coming back. These people don't follow that stuff, and I think the 4-hour cut is really going to hurt the viewing figures for Zack Snyder's Justice League. When it was a 4-part series, I thought, well, they could keep the hype going for a month, 4 weeks in a row. They could have constant, people talking about it on Twitter. It could explode. People maybe who weren't following it might pick up on it week 3 or week 4 and then go back and watch it. I think the fact it's a 4-hour cut is really going to hurt the audience. And back to your other point when you're saying about the marketing, I actually think Warner Brothers, Warner Media, whatever you want to call it, I don't think they know how to market this film. This is sort of like the first big streaming service movie, big, since the pandemic. This is not like Tenet, Wonder Woman. They were all released theatrically, so they had that sort of marketing power. This movie isn't going to have a theatrical release, from what we know at this moment. That could change, obviously. Might end up having a short-term theatrical release, but this movie isn't going to have that sort of level of pull. So I don't think Warner Brothers know how to market it. Do they invest what they would market a normal movie? Normal movies, you normally look at the production budget. So if it's 200 million, you normally double that for marketing. They can't do that for a streaming service movie. It's a movie that's not got a lot of resale value. It's only got what they have. So they're not going to market it like that. They are
There's a lot to do with COVID, by the way. That's a lot to do. Like, they can't open any movie in theaters. They're losing money on every fucking movie, like, for the next year here. So they're trying to take their movies and build their streaming platform out of it. And, when you look at the Disney Plus service, they're still charging for new releases. Like, you have Disney Plus, but you still have to pay like $30 to watch a new movie. And Warner Bros. Is going to give you a bunch of new movies for free. So they're taking a hit financially now, but they're doing it to build up to a bigger streaming service for the future. Jose M says, remember Legendary wanted to sue Warner's over a streaming deal with Godzilla Kong. They appeased Legendary. Clearly, like clear. I remember that. I remember that story too. Like, Legendary was trying, to get at Warner Brothers because they want to release it on the streaming platform and not in theaters, but they did a compromise. They are releasing it in theaters, but it's not going to make a lot of money, right? Like, these, you know how much money Wonder Woman made? I think it just barely made like 200 million. You know what I'm saying? So
I don't even think Wonder Woman has got past 200 million yet.
Yeah,
but
not even there.
I think Warner Brothers, what they did wrong with, when they announced that streaming deal, that all the movies in 2021 were going to go straight to the streaming service, HBO Max. Where they went wrong with that was they didn't actually tell the actors, the people involved that they were still going to pay them out like the movie was a hit. That's why, if you remember, you will see people like James Gunn coming out really aggressively against the studio. Even Zack Snyder had a little pop at Warner Bros. For it, but since then we've now discovered that Patty Jenkins, Gal Gadot, they were all paid upfront large sums of money as if Wonder Woman 1984 was a $1 billion hit. So I think that compromise, as much as they're taking a massive hit, it's actually going to work out in the long term. We hope for HBO Max it's going to work out in the long term.
Yeah, I think that's the whole strategy here. I mean, because you can't just sit on these movies for 2 years, right? You got to start putting out the content so people get on your streaming platform. But the BlackRock says Godzilla vs Kong looks like $1 billion film, judging from the trailer. And Kings of Monsters only made $500 million. It's not like I don't know what they're expecting from Godzilla vs Kong financially. I don't think it's going to break $500 million. Like Tenet, Christopher Nolan's Tenet, it only made $300 million. And right now, that's a nice number. You know what I'm saying? That's a good number for they would kill $300 million right now in a theater. So maybe Godzilla makes something around that. But the Snyder Cut. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Kong and Godzilla in a different time, non-pandemic time, might, I don't know, it seems to grab the attention of the world, that trailer. It's over 30 million views in 48 hours. It's crazy. Yeah. It seems to be people are just latching on this movie. I'm shocked, I won't lie. I don't have a lot of interest in Godzilla and Kong. I'm not monster guy, but I know a lot of
trailer reaction and all the Godzilla fans got on. Because I didn't like it. I was this is like a giant CG creatures punching each other. I don't get it. It was it was
if you want to watch that, if you like that, watch the Snyder Cut.
Yeah. At least Batman is going to be a human, for the most part. That's that cape CG. George, it's not about the money; it's about sending a message. I totally. Warner Bros. Is all about sending a message with their streaming platform right now. You're going to get new movies on the streaming platform. But going back to the Snyder Cut, though, it is a director's cut, right, of a movie. And how many director's cuts get pushed? You know what I'm saying? When you think about it, I have the Apocalypse Now final cut, right? Did you ever see an advertisement for it? You know what I'm saying? It just came out. That's what they're kind of treating the Snyder Cut as. It's just a director's cut. The hardcore people are going to buy it. They're not expecting people to go crazy about it. They're not expecting it to light the world on fire here. They just want to appease some of these hardcore fans so they stop harassing them. Really, but that's not going to work.
It's a completely different. This is a completely different podcast. But you're talking about green lighting the Snyder Cut. I don't actually think AT&T, Warner Media, whatever you want to call them, I don't think they actually realised what they had done in that moment. I don't think they actually truly understood the depths of war they had opened up by basically giving in to fan pressure, which had never been done really before in Hollywood. You'd never really seen the fans control the studio that way. And now Warners are in an epic battle to basically regain that control, and it's going to be difficult. And AT&T now, all of a sudden, I don't know if you remember, about 12 months ago, well, maybe about 8 months ago, they set up Warner Max, which was a company that was going to be primarily for projects on HBO Max. AT&T quickly realised they were out their depths. They scrapped Warner Max, and now the power's back with WB, Warner Bros. Pictures, under Toby Emmerich. But what they have done, AT&T, is they have made that job basically controlling the narrative and bringing the power back to the studio away from this specific set of fans, it's going to be extremely difficult for Warner Brothers, and they're going to be in for a couple of years, I think, especially even post-pandemic. Hopefully towards the end of this year, definitely next year, the pandemic is largely past, and we can enjoy some good movies in the theaters. But I think what they have done is they've allowed, a small minority of fans a lot of power.
Oh yeah, and it is a small minority of people too that want the Snyder Cut. Like comparatively to the rest of the DC fans that are out there, most DC fans don't even really care about the Snyder Cut when you talk to them about it. You know what I'm saying? They think Justice League, that Josh Whedon Justice League, is like the best it's gonna get. I don't believe that. I think that the Snyder Cut's gonna be like a Lord of the Rings level type film. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be a lot of action. It's gonna be really epic to actually watch, like visually and stuff like that. And I'm a DC fan at heart, like hardcore. Really, like I want to see Darkseid. I want to see all these characters on screen. Martian Manhunter, like that stuff gets me excited alone. But still, there is a huge divide amongst the fans, and I feel like we should get some words about that here. When did you first notice that? By the way, go ahead. Yeah.
See, before I started doing the Instagram page, Detective Quantum Talks, and then eventually moved on and started using Twitter, I never actually realised the divide. You hear people on YouTube videos and in podcasts basically saying, "Oh, Twitter's a horrible place. Twitter's a horrible place." But I never thought until you actually step foot on it how toxic it can be. And obviously this specific set of fans, and I'm not here to sit and criticize anybody or slag anybody, because what the Snyder fans have done for the suicide prevention is absolutely incredible. How a group of fans have came together and managed to support charities and work. I'm happy for Zack to get his cut, but now we're at a point with actually judging the movie, with actually judging Zack Snyder, the filmmaker. And unfortunately, this movie's coming out, and it's going to be, even before it's come out, there's going to be a certain select set of people who are adoring it, loving it, praising it. But there's also going to be another set of people who are just gunning to absolutely cane this movie. And it's going to just be a crazy couple of months for us. But actually, answering your point, when did I discover it? I didn't actually realise until about last year. Was it March, May time when the Snyder Cut got announced? I'm not sure. Was it March this time last year? The Snyder Cut got announced. And I think when that happened, that was the moment I realised that, oh my God, this isn't about justice. This is about revenge. They don't want justice for Zack. They don't want justice for what Zack was put through, because what Zack was put through, even though now we're seeing quotes from Zack, basically saying that he was the one that stepped away, etc. I think Zack's been nice about that. I truly believe that, he was under immense pressure on the set of Justice League, and the studio was being really difficult with him. And I think that, I think it was shitty what happened to Zack. I've got, it's the whole situation was an absolute mess. And I'm happy the Snyder Cut's coming out, but I just think what it's done to the fan base it's quite scary. It is really, you're scared to talk about this stuff. I'm somebody who, much like yourself, Alex, I love this stuff. I read DC every single week. I'm a massive DC fan. And this is just, it hurts your feelings. It actually makes you so sad. Like something you love so much, like something you love talking about. The last, maybe 10 years, we've had to watch the Marvel movies flourish and build this connective universe. And I'm not here saying that Marvel's the best. I'm not saying that at all. I'm looking at Marvel and going, Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman.
Like Thor movie.
And I'm looking and going, look at my characters. Look at Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern. How is this not working? Like, how have we not got that? And I think that it's just been so difficult, in this last year. Anytime you speak against the movie, not Zack is the man, you're attacked for multiple things, you're accused of multiple things, and it's just really turned into a really horrible place, and that's without even talking about the stuff that's alleged to have happened on the set of the movie. I'm not even going to touch on that, but like that's just the movie itself, never mind the other stuff that's came from
it. There's no doubt that Justice League was a fucking nightmare on set when they were trying to reshoot and remake a movie like 6 months before it was going to get released. They had to like remake the whole fucking movie. They had no time for nobody's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I agree with you on, it's very sad because I've been waiting like decades for like DC movies, and we're stumbling all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, we finally got an Aquaman movie and Shazam movies that were good. That's great. But for every Aquaman Shazam, you get something like Birds of Prey. You know what I'm saying? Like something like what? Who asked for that? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a DC fan. I don't want to see Birds of Prey or the Suicide Squad, really. I want to see the main characters. I want to see another Green Lantern movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, why can't we get that going? Why are we stuck with these, characters that really most DC fans could like care less about, really? Like Suicide Squad? Like, how many Suicide Squad books have you read? Like one? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like
I've been actually reading the original John Ostrander run recently from the 80s. Yeah. It's absolutely fantastic. I get your point.
Popular. Yeah.
But what I will say is you're totally correct.
But the other thing that really disappoints me about this whole fandom is how they treat Geoff Johns, man. How do they treat that man? You know what I'm saying? Like, they treat this guy who did so much for DC. You know what I'm saying? Like, this guy resurrected DC Comics how many times? You know what I'm saying? And he was fighting against these studio heads for like 2 decades to fucking try to get a word in. You know what I'm saying? And the second he gets a word in, it fails with Justice League, right? And then everybody blames him for it. It's kind of like, shitty situation here. Because I wouldn't be reading comics if it wasn't for Geoff Johns. I'm 26, so my first comic book I read was like around 2005, 4, or something like that. And like, that was the Green Lantern Rebirth era. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what got me into comics. Like, it wasn't Batman. It was that Green Lantern Rebirth, And from that point, you go and read the whole DC catalog and shit. And that's a lot of people. That's like millions of DC fans are like that, So
I think that if you look at the DC films at the moment, absolutely, the films that are coming out are all based on John's books. The Aquaman movie was totally ripped from John's New 52 run. Shazam was again totally ripped for the back pages of Justice League New 52. It's practically the same story. We've got Black Adam upcoming. Again, it's going to be the Geoff Johns JSA run. It sounds like it's going to be the Geoff Johns JSA run, sounding the way Dwayne Johnson's talking about it with the Justice Society of America coming into it. It sounds like it's exactly what Johns had written in the early 2000s with David Goyer. We've obviously got the Flash coming out. That made John's most famous piece of work. And I actually found it quite funny that the majority of people who are John's haters are the same people who are demanding a comics accurate Flashpoint movie. I think that's just hilarious.
Don't make any goddamn sense. It's crazy. It's not like Geoff Johns is purposefully trying to hurt these movies. Like, he cares way more about DC Comics than anybody at Warner Brothers. You know what I'm saying? Like, Geoff Johns has been a huge DC fanboy his whole life. Like, he is known as the fanboy writer. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's super nostalgic over his own work half the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, if
you watch Stargirl, it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, Stargirl was great. It was much better than most CW shows. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a good time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get the hate. I don't get the hate.
Obviously, like, talking about Geoff Johns, I feel like, we're leading into territory of talking about another situation. I don't want to talk about that,
Yeah, I know. We agree.
The situation everybody knows we're talking about the Ray Fisher situation. That's been dealt with by an investigation. That's none of your place. Like, we can comment on it and we can ask questions on social media, but at the end of the day, that is what it is. It's nothing. If anything comes from that, then we can comment on it. We can, because if anything comes to light, aka evidence from that situation, then we can come on this show, we can talk about it, we can go, that's so shitty for Geoff Johns, why did he do that? But until I see something, I'm not going to comment because I wasn't there, and unfortunately, it's just a hearsay sort of conversation. That, but what I will say about Geoff Johns is, when you look at DC now, look what's happened. You know what he came into. He came into a shit show post BVS. He was basically mandated a role to clean up the DCEU. Unfortunately, so much happened in BVS that was setting up the future of DC. It was impossible. It's impossible. Like, Justice League was doomed. It was a no-win. If you look at Aquaman, you know, which Geoff Johns was heavily involved in, you know, that's the highest grossing DC film ever. And you're including Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. Did you hear the story that Geoff Johns was the one that added Black Manta to the Aquaman movie? Like, Black Manta was never in the movie until Geoff Johns said, you have to put Black Manta in the movie. And come on. Like, I need that. I need that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need Black Manta. You know?
I've also seen people try to twist that though and make it sound like Geoff Johns was meddling. What? He's a fan, you know. He's trying to give us the fan. What was the biggest takeaway for 2017's Justice League? If you speak to anybody, the biggest takeaway was the end scene while Lex was setting up a potential Legion of Doom. That's what everybody was talking about. Everybody was like, "Oh my god, we could have the Legion of Doom here." People want that sort of stuff, and Johns was pushing it in that direction. You know, that is where Johns was going to go. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to see that. But like I say, the legacy of Geoff Johns remains. Aquaman, Shazam, Wonder Woman 84, you know, I believe that movie was hijacked by, let's be honest, it was hijacked by a certain element of the fans. We know we've been discussing them tonight, who clearly seen that movie was taking the universe in a different direction and decided, screw that, we're not having that. We're not allowing our dreams to be evaporated, you know, our future Snyderverse to be evaporated, and they did hijack that movie and kicked it, you know.
And Wonder Woman 84, like, the movie's not a bad movie. Like, it has a narrative, you know, it has feeling in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's emotional moments in that movie. Like, bad movies don't have that. You know what I'm saying? Like, people are way too over the top about the hatred toward it because Geoff Johns' name is on it as a co-writer and a producer.
Yep.
And that's all he is. He's not the DC Films president. He's not chief creative officer anymore. You know what I'm saying? He literally is just a writer now. And he's kind of like freelancing for WB.
Like I say, like Geoff Johns was put in a position of power. I've always said this in every comment I make on this. Geoff Johns was basically given the Kevin Feige role of DC. And do you want to know what? He took a gamble in Justice League. Zack left, regardless how Zack left. He left. He brought Joss Whedon in. That was his choice. He took that gamble, and it failed. You know, no matter what I say, as much as I really, you know, I love Geoff Johns' work, it failed. And see, because that failed, Johns had to go. That's just the way it works. That's how business works. If you bring, it's the same with Zack. He brought BVS out. Yeah, you know, you can spin it and go, oh, it made $873 million. That movie cost nearly, you know, somewhere between $600-700 million if you include the marketing, all the costs involved in that movie. That movie was a disaster. You know, it was a disaster for WB. Like, I can assure you, they were expecting at least $1 billion, but they were even $1 billion. I think they still would have been a bit disappointed with it. And I think that it can't be underestimated in this industry. When you put yourself in that position, if you fail, there's consequences, and that's just the way it is. And it's the same with Geoff Johns. He made a decision, and he brought Joss Whedon in.
And after Justice League failed, Geoff Johns steps down as DC Films president, chief creative officer. You know, like, he got punished for it. Like, I don't understand why people still on his case about shit. Classy joined. Once BVS came out, critics and casual audiences didn't like it. I enjoyed what it is. I enjoyed it too, but that's the situation. You know, BVS came out and fucking everybody hated it. Like, I remember that time, dude. I remember 2016 and all the memes and hour-long videos of people trashing that movie. And
you're not gonna like what I'm gonna say. But when BVS came out, I won't lie, I seen it on. I am here in the UK just because of time difference. I got to see it on a Wednesday night at midnight, and the good reviews came out. Do you remember there was a first batch of reviews that came out, and it was like, "Oh, it's the best thing ever! It's the best movie ever." The critic reviews, they didn't let them, because I think they knew the critics were going to smash it, so they didn't let them come out until Thursday night. Literally on the day the movie came out, that's when we got the critic reviews. And I remember I saw BBS, and I won't lie, I was cold coming out of it. I was so disappointed. Like, as much as the Trinity scene will live in my heart forever, that moment when Wonder Woman shows up, saves Batman for Doomsday, that no one will ever take that feeling away from me. But just walking out of that film, I just felt like, why wasn't that amazing? How couldn't that be amazing? And it was so disappointing. Was it as bad as the critical bashing it got? No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't the worst movie ever, but it was disappointing, and I did feel that as a DC fan. And people will then attack me now and go, "Oh, well, you probably loved Shazam. You love your Kerry films." That it's not about that. It's not about that. I just think when you go to the theatre. Yeah, I want to be a big kid. These are comic books, I want to enjoy them. I've had The Dark Knight. I loved it. It was amazing. The Dark Knight trilogy was the best, But I want to go and watch these films. I want to be able to believe someone can fly. I want to believe there's a guy out there that can run with the Flash, run through time zones and multiverses. I want to believe that. And, watching BVS, I just came out a wee bit going, I loved Affleck. Godot's got potential, but that's about it. That's all I had coming away from it, and it was so disappointing. It was. But at the end of the day, money talks, and that movie didn't do as well. If you actually look at that movie, had that movie not been such a smash at the opening weekend, that would have been a disaster. Actually, it made over 400 million in the first 10 days.
Huge.
It made
huge fucking opening. Yeah.
But if it hadn't done that opening, that movie would have been a real disaster for Warner Bros. Had that not had such a, just the idea of Batman, Superman being on screen together, if that had not been such a massive draw to the general audience, the drop-off, I think the second weekend was at 68% drop-off. Crazy drop-off in that area. Yeah, incredible drop for that movie.
Yeah, that was like the gut punch moment that second weekend, right? When it dude, if it just dropped 59%, you know what I'm saying? If it was just 10% less, they probably would have made $1 billion. When you think about it, it was such a bad drop that's why it didn't make $1 billion. It was because people saw it that first weekend, and the word of mouth was so bad, it turned people off. I mean, that movie was on pace to. After that first weekend, that was on pace to smash $1 billion easy. And that panic.
That movie should have been $1 billion no matter what. It shouldn't even have been a question. Batman himself just came off the back of 2 back-to-back $1 billion movies. Throw in Superman and Wonder Woman. There's no reason why that movie wasn't at least $1 billion.
Yeah. And, Warner Brothers is a director-driven studio. Right, that's why Nolan got to make those Dark Knight movies like that, And when they gave Zack Snyder Man of Steel, they let him make his Man of Steel movie, right? And we can kind of trace the whole disaster of the DCEU back to that neck snap, right? Because if that was all a Zack Snyder thing, and who was the one person that told him it was a bad idea? You know what I'm saying? Christopher Nolan, Geoff Johns, these guys were like, maybe Superman shouldn't snap somebody's neck. Maybe that shouldn't happen. And if that doesn't happen, let's say Superman takes out Zod any other way, right? You know what I'm saying? We don't have this huge backlash against Man of Steel, right? Which means people are probably more open to BVS, maybe, who knows? Maybe it makes $1 billion. You never know. But I feel like it all comes back to that neck snap. And, me personally, I'm a big comics fan. I've been reading comics for 15 years, right? I know the characters enough that, when you show me a dissection of them, when you show me a different version of them, I can accept it pretty easily because I've already seen every other version. You know what I'm saying? So when I saw the Superman neck snap, I was like, that was pretty fucking dope. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've never seen that before. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I
understand why people didn't like it. But yeah, go on. Yeah.
I have zero issues with
Yeah.
like what they were trying, what Zack was trying to do in Man of Steel. I just think that it's certain characters fit certain tones. You know, when you Superman, you know that movie. I believe if you know he did, try and pay homage a bit more to the Christopher Lee version. By the way, there's allowed to be different versions of Superman. It doesn't all have to fall back to Christopher Lee or George Reeves. It doesn't always, of course. But I think there's a certain element, especially Zack Snyder's films, but Man of Steel and BVS, well, it isn't fun. You know, like apart from maybe the first flight scene in Man of Steel, that isn't really a movie you come away from happy. You know, it's not a movie that you go and see. It's not a movie like in terms of like Wonder Woman 1984. It has got certain cheesy elements to it, but that movie you come away from punching the sky, you know, wanting to be Wonder Woman, you know. And I think that's the thing about the Zack Snyder's movies. They're really intense. They're visually stunning. And I think it does put a lot of people off. You know, a lot of people watch these movies and, you know, they come away crying. Quite frankly, you know, you come away upset. You know,
to your point, sometimes that's what I want out of these heroes, right? Because, like, I've seen every other version, right? But every Zack Snyder movie, when you look at his catalog, they're all depressing. You know, say 300, everybody dies. Dawn of the Dead, everybody dies. Sucker Punch, the main character dies. You know what I'm saying? Like, every movie is dour, except for, like, the Owl movie. I think that's the only, like, uplifting one he's actually made, really. Like, so, like...
I bet you Army of the Dead, everybody dies in that as
well. And Justice League, I feel like there's going to be a scene where everybody dies and Flash has to go back in time. I feel like that's going to happen in his movie at some point. It's a 4-hour movie.
Like, I mean, you know, the nightmare scenario, what Zack was planning. You know, I always find it quite funny when you go back to 2016. Do you remember the week the BVS was being released? Zack was going around, him and Deborah Snyder were going around telling everybody that, oh yeah, the films in the future are going to be brighter. They're going to be a lot. This is as dark as it gets. Everybody was going about saying that, and then we find out, you know, like a few years later, when Zack's telling everybody about his 5-movie plan, that it was going to get even darker because all the Justice League were going to die in the future, and it was only going to be Cyborg, half of him left, Batman and Flash in a tin can suit. That's all it was going to be left of the Justice League. You know, and you're like, Zack, who are you kidding? Come on.
right. And that was the thing too. Like, they planned out Zack Snyder's Justice League like during BVS, right? Like, they had the pre-production done when BVS like opened, right? So like they couldn't really change anything. They had to like go through what he was doing. But as they were making it, the studio was like constantly like telling him to change shit, and he got sick of it. And Zack Snyder, we talked about earlier, but he came out and he said that he left because he was tired of that bullshit, and his daughter committed suicide. So it's like, you know, he didn't want to be there anymore. It wasn't. I don't really think it was Warner Brothers really forcing him out. It was just, you know, they were giving him too many notes and he didn't like it anymore, and he couldn't deal with it because of everything that happened to him. So, like, what do you want Warner Brothers to do? Force him on the film still? You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe Warner Brothers was the good guys right there. You know what I'm saying?
What I said to you earlier was, when it comes to the Zack, Warner Brothers, when they gave Zack, like, basically, you know, you have to understand, after Man of Steel came out, Warner Brothers gave Zack everything. They said to Zack, look, you're in control, you're the man. And Zack just did what Zack was doing. You know, Zack planned out 5 movies. It was going to be a Lord of the Rings trilogy type thing. I think Zack only did his job. But the problem is for Warner Brothers, where they went wrong, and I stand by it, we spoke about this earlier, is Warner Brothers had the opportunity to step in after BVS and go, stop. We're not doing Justice League. Look, next year we'll fast track Ben Affleck's Batman, or we'll fast track Aquaman or something like that, or we'll just have we'll miss out 2017, we'll just have Wonder Woman. And then they could have put Justice League back until 2018 and then gave another director, whether it was Joss Whedon or whatever, probably, hopefully not, Joss Whedon, but and they could have gave George Miller or something like that the opportunity to come in. But Warner Bros. Were too interested. This is where I do blame Warner Bros. They were far too interested in, making up their, tax year. We know Kevin Sujihara was, doomed for the exit door due to allegations against him. But he was fast-tracking Justice League.
Yeah, you're going.
And I think that what's ended up happening is you've got this situation where Warner Bros. Have made a zombified movie, and they've put themselves in a situation where basically they've allowed this cut to become a thing. I always go back to Warner Bros. They could have stopped this. They could have stepped in at any opportunity and said no. Like they could have went, we're not doing this. Yeah, but instead they allowed.
People don't realize that BVS went through massive reshoots as well. That movie cost almost $300 million as well. You know what I'm saying? BVS. They were doing everything to help Zack Snyder make BVS a great film. And they did this, and with Justice League, they kind of did the same thing. And then when Zack Snyder leaves, they overhaul the whole thing because at that point, they've given Zack Snyder everything to do what he needs to do to make the movies the way he wants to make them, right? Because WB is a director-driven studio. But still, like, back to what you were saying, you know what I'm saying? I just wanted to throw that in right there. But, yeah.
I don't think you can be... I know Warner Bros. Always say they're director-driven studio, and I think we'll discuss it in a second when we talk about the future of the DCEU, but I think... when you're doing a DCEU, when you're doing a cinematic universe, it's really hard to be a director-driven studio. Like, that's why over at Marvel with Kevin Feige. When you're over at Marvel with Kevin Feige, it works so well because Kevin Feige is hiring, to be fair, unknown directors. He's finding guys from indie movies and TV series, and they're bringing them over. And Kevin Feige is basically the puppet master. He's telling them what to do. He's whispering in his ear. And it's meaning that all those movies feel at the same continuity. I want DC to do that. No, I don't. I believe DC can still exist in the same universe, and that's the beauty of DC. The characters are different. You've got Batman, who is a dark, gloomy character. You've got characters like Superman, who is hopeful. He's the beacon of hope and truth and justice. I think Zack Snyder wasn't really doing that. I didn't like what he was doing with Henry Cavill, and I actually don't think Henry Cavill liked what Zack Snyder was doing, because you hear Henry Cavill, he wants to play that Superman, he wants to be the hopeful Superman, he doesn't want to be the emo, he doesn't want to be the outsider. And as much as that story had credit and it had a certain level of nuance in it. I liked what they were doing with Man of Steel. It was an interesting take, but it wasn't for the general audience. The general audience just we aren't used to seeing that, with Superman, and especially in a time when Marvel were coming out with the Avengers movies, the Captain America movies. People just want somebody like Superman to, cheer, and it's so simple. It's such a simple thing to do. He can be the guy that everybody looks up to, and even though he's a comic character, he almost feels real. We're talking about Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. These are just three icons in American, even world culture. People actually almost don't believe they're real, but almost. If you look in the dictionary, Superman's in there.
Yeah, I mean, they're the most popular fictional characters of all time, next to Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a fucked up joke. But still, let's get into that Flashpoint movie, because that's yet another dark story. How are they going to play that movie? You know what I'm saying? I like that DC goes dark sometimes. I like that. I like the hopeful, optimistic stuff as well, like with Wonder Woman. I had good feels throughout Wonder Woman 84, I'm not ashamed to say that, but I do like my dark stories as well. And that's why Flashpoint, that's a really dark story that's has a lot of fucked up moments in it. Are they going to play it? What
you're saying though about the dark elements, I think even you look at Shazam, it did have, even though that movie, it did have dark elements to it. It balanced it so well. I understand people go, "Oh, the Seven Deadly Sins? They are not that scary." But I was in a theater and I've seen kids cry watching Shazam. I've seen that movie about 7 times, and I saw kids cry watching that movie because they were terrified of those Seven Deadly Sins. And I think that even Wonder Woman 1984, there was certain dark undertones to it, like when you look at Barbara, the guy that keeps hitting on her. That is suggesting, something really sinister. Aquaman, when he goes down to the trench,
it's almost like Go ahead. Sorry.
It's not dark as in Batman drinking whiskey and popping pills and BBS. I mean, that's not that's a bit different. When you look, that's just a bit more emo than dark.
I'm fucking around.
Or Superman, when he's confronted with a serious question like, people are turning on you, what should we do? And his answer is rip the gear off and jump in the tub with Lois, That's a different type of darkness,
Yeah.
Cherry. But talking about the Flash, though, it's interesting because obviously they're calling it, people are saying Flashpoint. I don't think it necessarily is Flashpoint. It's like an adaptation of Flashpoint.
It's inspired. I guess that's a better way to say it, right? It's inspired by Flash.
They use the word Flashpoint because that is one of the biggest selling DC books of the last 15 years. They use that word because general audiences read Flashpoint.
They're aware of it.
It's that big a bit.
Yeah,
but God, it's that big that it's spawned almost its own universe. If this book spun off from it, set in the Flashpoint universe, that's how big that book was for DC.
And think about
forward. This movie's massive. I can't say. On you go.
Oh, you want me? Think about how big Flashpoint was. You know what I'm saying? Like, that totally shaped DC Comics for a decade. You know what I'm saying? And, after Johns leaves, after like the new Rebirth era that he started, that was successful. Like when the Rebirth thing started, it was successful. Like a lot of people were buying new comics. And that was all Geoff Johns. And the second Geoff Johns leaves, DC falls apart. Like, you think, like, look at what they are right now. You know what I'm saying? They're down to 30 different books. They're down to 30. They used to be at 60, putting out 60 different books. Now they're down to 30. And they cut like.
It's going to be less than that.
Yeah, like, and AT&T is gutting all the staff. They're putting people that never really have been in these positions before. They're getting rid of like people like Dan DiNito. Like, even though Dan DiNito is like the greatest person ever, he still was in charge of keeping DC Comics together and stuff like that. And there was a lot of good stuff during that.
Alex, it's funny. You're actually talking about the comic side. This is another subject we can talk about. That's actually more proof that people that follow, this Snyder Cut movement, that they aren't actually comic fans, because people should be campaigning against AT&T and Warner Media. What they've done here, Warner Media are basically about to cancel DC Comics. It cannot be underestimated what is happening here. Like, what the plan is in the next 18 to 24 months is essentially to basically take DC Comics down to about 6 titles. Basically, there'll be a skeleton staff. If those same people who were tweeting, in the hundreds of thousands, but if there was hundreds of thousands, I don't know how. It's hard to gauge how many people are actually tweeting when everybody's planning a spam session. 2:00 on Friday, we're going to spam hashtag. And then I think that it doesn't work the same. Like, if a new film comes out, people are just tweeting Godzilla Vs Kong. That's actually people tweeting it, not like arranging a spam session. But anyway, that's a different subject. If people had done the same with DC Comics and actually got behind the comic and saved the comics, this is the bread and butter. These movies are based on these comics, and in the next couple of years, DC is going to literally be Batman only, Superman only. That is literally what we're going to be down to. And that's what, unfortunately, AT&T are putting people in charge of DC Comics now who aren't interested in comics. What they're interested in is fitting a narrative. The narrative is going to be whatever happens on the big screen is going to be what you read, and that's not right. That the comic to expand the stories, take the characters in new directions, to give the film side of it food for thought. And it's really sad, and I just wish that the community, the DC fan community, including the Snyder fans, came together with us people and actually, went against AT&T. This is serious what they're doing. It's really sad, and it's a really bugbear for me that I wish the support. If 200,000 people tweeted against AT&T doing this, you would see a difference. You've seen it if you remember when AT&T were talking about selling WB games, and a lot of people that voted against that. AT&T instantly stopped it. That's not happening anymore. Now they've moved to DC Comics. But but on actually Flashpoint talking about.
It's a travesty what AT&T has done to DC Comics. They were in such a better place like 5-6 years ago, right? When the New 52 was going, and obviously New 52 didn't really end well, but it started really well. And the same thing with DC Rebirth.
DC?
Yeah, dude. And who was responsible for that? You know what I'm saying? Like, who was the guy who fucking did that? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's amazing that people can't recognize. Like, this guy, Classy, he doesn't know what's going on with the DC Comics. Like most people that follow the DC movies, they don't know what's going on with the comics, and it's not a pretty sight. It's not a pretty sight. Like, I remember when the New 52 was going, I was buying like almost 20 different books. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was loving it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, holy shit! Like, everything's connecting. I was digging it. Like, but now it's all about your big three really, which is like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and like maybe Green Lantern, maybe if it's still popular. Obviously, the new Green Lantern characters haven't been as popular as Hal Jordan. I don't think anything's gonna really surpass Hal Jordan and John Stewart. Like, those are your two, right? Yeah. But like now with DC, like when you said their plan, they had this plan to like get rid of every major DC character and like bring a new generation. What was it called? It was called 5G. Something like 5G.
5G. They're doing it right now to an extent, future stuff.
But go ahead. Yeah.
They're kind of doing it right now still to an extent, that future state thing they're doing, the Frontier thing. They're actually doing it. Actually, it's quite successful, so I've heard, but from what I've actually heard is that is going to be the last. That's going to be the last run for DC. Like, they are going through with their plans to streamline the company, and it is really sad. I understand there's an evolution in life, and like when I was younger, I would watch films on like a video, like a tape, and then obviously DVDs came out, and then we moved on to DVDs. Then Blu-ray came. I realised in life there's an evolution, and I get that. For a lot of people, they don't go to the shops or they can't right now and buy comics. But I still think that media has a pull. I don't think it has to. Everything. I understand maybe a lot. I see like you're talking about 60 books at DC. I understand maybe 40 of them become digital only. But you shouldn't take away that experience. You shouldn't take away that weekly comic. To your friend who's actually asking about what the plan is, what DC are planning on doing is basically going all digital. And after maybe 10 books, releasing it as a hardback. So you won't get your weekly comics anymore. It'll literally be at the end of 10 issues or a run, whatever the run is these days. It'll be released as a paperback, which... It's so sad. And if you actually understand the inner workings of what AT&T are actually doing, what they are doing is a guy for EA, I think it's Activision, something like that. He's actually working with Jim Lee in charge of DC Comics right now. Like, this guy is coming in to basically undermine everything DC are doing to make it work, that whatever happens in the films replicates in the comics. Which I just don't think that's right. Because personally, I think the comics should be their own voice.
What they're doing in the comics should be affecting what they're doing in the movies. Really, I feel like that's what should be happening. At least that's what they were thinking about doing. Like back in 2016, they were thinking about like having everything connect on like a certain level. Having everything make sense. Really, I don't know about like connecting one to one, but like everything made sense, right? Like if you read something in the comics, it show up in the movie somehow. That's what they were planning on doing back then. But now it's just all about downsizing because DC Comics doesn't make a lot of money. I get it. You know what I'm saying? Batman's your highest selling book. Batman only sells about 100,000 issues a month, probably, right? Isn't that like around there?
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Comics are popular, but still, like, they're influencing what you see on TV and film. They're important. You know what I'm saying? Like, comics just aren't funny books. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so frustrating sometimes. It's like,
I know we're talking about, we're supposed to be talking about Flashpoint. We'll get back to that in a second, but I think you've got two options in that situation. Do you just throw away DC Comics, or do you do the other option? Fix it, bring in new writers, bring back old writers, go back to the way it was. Go back 10 years ago to when New 52 started. Why was it successful? Look at it and go, okay, we had all these writers. We had Geoff Johns basically heading up the group. We had everybody working together at the start. Go back to that. Don't run away. You know, don't take the easy option. You know?
Yeah. And they kind of did it again with Rebirth. You know, when Rebirth they kind of did it again. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of worked again. And then they gave up on it again. Like, it was just like a vicious cycle. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. But yeah, what were you saying?
I think don't get me wrong, like the DC are, you know, the amount of reboots DC have is crazy. It's quite funny that we're actually about to discuss here, talking about the Flash, another reboot. Essentially, you know, like essentially what DC are planning on doing. As much as people don't like to hear that word, you know, I always say the word soft reboot. You know, and people just read that word. People just read that word. This is just to kind of switch on to the Flash. You know, what the Flash is essentially doing, from what we've heard from basically all the trades, basically, you know, the big Twitter YouTubers, is DC are going through with a soft reboot. Even Barbara Machete sort of said at DC Fandom, she said that it forgets everything but doesn't forget, you know, everything. No, I mean, it restarts everything but doesn't forget anything, in the sense that it's a soft reboot, you know, and that's what DC are doing. And I think that people see that word reboot and get the fear, you know, they get scared. And I think that what happens out there going, no, like everything's connected. And, you know, DC, they aren't using the word reboot in the public. They're using this word multiverse to try and control the narrative.
And Ann Smirnoff, CEO of Warner Media, Ann Smirnoff, she came out and she said the multiverse line, like you said, but she also said she wants the DC universe centralized. You know what I'm saying? So there's going to be some running theme throughout the movies or something like that. And Flashpoint is going to be the start point, really the new start point of like this new continuity that's going to be going forward. And it's not like they're going to forget about BVS, but like what's going to happen in Flashpoint is probably going to change the events of what you saw in like movies like Man of Steel and BVS, right? Like it's going to change.
I mean, Zack Snyder, he's not, you know, when Zack Snyder said to Grace Randolph 6 or 7 months ago, he sees his movies as its own thing now. And, you know, when he sits and says to Grace that I see it as a trilogy, Man of Steel, BVS, and Zack Snyder's Justice League, he sees it as its own thing. That wasn't a mistake. That wasn't Zack trying to mislead anybody. Zack knows what's going on. Zack knows what the plan is, you know. Look, the Snyderverse, if that's what we're calling it, that'll live on in the sense that it'll always be part of the multiverse, you know, going forward. I still think, you know, the Affleck solo movie, that could happen. It could, you know. I don't think it will personally, because I think I'll look at the situation and say Ben is fully booked for the next 3 or 4 years. By that point, Ben's going to be well in his 50s. Is Ben going to want to suit up at that point? I don't know. But just because, you know, it's a different argument when people talk about maybe Michael Keaton becoming Batman. We'll talk about that in a second. But when people talk about that, we're talking about a guy in his late 60s who, no offense to Michael Keaton, he's not got that much work. You know, Michael Keaton, you know, why would he not sign on for a few cameo roles in a few films? But like Ben Affleck, we're talking about an Oscar-winning director. You know, this is a guy who, this is a big other subject, but regardless, contrary to what you believe, BVS really hurt Ben. You know, Ben's career was at an all-time high before BVS. He just won the Academy Award for Argo. And what happened to BVS really hurt Ben. You know, it really did hurt him as well. I'm not saying that, you know, that was contributing to everything, he had these personal issues and stuff, but BVS's The Action had a really big impact, and Ben was hurt. We see the memes, the sad memes for Ben, but that's real. I mean, they were real. That is how Ben was feeling at that time.
He believed in the movie too. Like, he believed what Zack Snyder was doing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he wanted it to be like a big film for him. He thought like this was supposed to be a huge fucking hit, right? And then when all that,
he's one of us. He's a geek.
Yeah, he loves Batman. He has a giant Batman statue in his fucking house. You know what I'm saying? Ben Affleck, yeah, you're right. His career was at an all-time high. And when BVS and Justice League happened, like, number one, his other movie that was coming out that time, like Live by Night, got completely ignored, right? Other stuff he was doing was just completely trashed. His whole personal life was brought to the public, right? And I could see why he doesn't want to be Batman anymore. It's just too much of a fucking headache, really, when you think about all the shit he already went through. But Mike,
yeah. But by the way, I'm so happy that at least he has signed on for the Flash. Because at least we're going to get an end to Ben's Batman. We're going to get the opportunity to say goodbye to Ben, and we're going to get that closure that we needed. I was obviously going into the Flash. We heard, I don't know what you think about the Michael Keaton stuff, but personally, I'm pumped for it. I think it's going to be pretty dope. But I think that going in, when the report came out for the Hollywood Reporter that Michael Keaton was signing on multi-picture deal, the Hollywood Reporter, they aren't, this isn't a light cast or Detective Comic Talks type people breaking news. This was a big mainstream publication who clearly are in with the studio. When they said that Michael Keaton was in talks to sign on a multi-picture deal and become the DCEU Batman, I think they were right. I don't think, they're misleading. And I don't even think that the New York Times article that came out a few weeks ago, remember the guy had to kind of come out and sort of distance himself from, the Keaton thing. But I don't think he was wrong. I think that is the plan. I think Keaton is going to be the new DCEU Batman. And I think if you're going to do the multiverse, you need to change things. There has to be a multiverse change. It can't be the multiverse happens, but everything stays the same, except characters act differently. That isn't how it works. Like, there has to be something that changes in the continuity. Whether that's Henry steps aside as Superman, I hope not. But whether Ben doesn't come back, I think Gal and Jason are safe. They're not going anywhere. I think that probably Ezra's safe at this point.
See what happens with Ezra. Well, he might go at some point. We don't know what's going to happen with Ezra Miller. We'll see. We'll see.
Ezra Miller's career has took such a nosedive in the last 4 or 5 years that as long as what WB want him to be the Flash, Ezra Miller will be the Flash. He's the face of another massive franchise and Fantastic Beasts as well for WB. So I think Ezra's going to stay as long as the Flash is successful. I think the inclusion of Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck is probably going to make that $1 billion film. I also think 2022.
Michael Keaton alone is going to make that.
I think 2022 as well.
But just imagine if the Flash movie comes. Just imagine if that happens. We're all fucked. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to go back and do everything again. Like. And we're another 10 years before we get a Green Lantern film. Another 10. It's a fucking.
Oh no! I mean, we've got the Green Lantern series coming up. So
we got that.
Well, hopefully, what we've heard. I listened to your report on that as well. I listened to your wee breakdown, the synopsis of that. It sounds like that's going to lead into a Green Lantern film down the road.
It feels like.
I'm interested to see if the guy they cast as Alan Scott in that series will also be Alan Scott in Black Adam. Maybe he's a cameo.
That'd be cool.
I think that could work. I think that would be a cool wee continuity thing they could do there. I think that the Flash is massive for DC. Walter Hamada. We were speaking earlier about Geoff Johns. His big choice was to take Zack away and replace him with Joss Whedon. Walter Hamada, his big moment is going to be the Flash. He's signed a contract until 2023. Essentially, that's Warner Media, not Warner Brothers, that's Warner Media turning around saying, okay, this is your shot. This is your baby. This is your choice. And this is everything Walter Hamada's been doing the last few years has been building up to this moment. And I know Marvel are doing the multiverse as well, but I think DC have got such an upper hand, you know, in the sense that DC's continuity is all over the place.
It's perfect for a multiverse.
And it means that I mean DC's biggest weakness is going to be used as their biggest positive. It's crazy. DC have managed to turn something that's a mess. You know, let's be honest. We've got, you know, the Dark Knight films. We've got these Supermans. We've got Smallville. We've got Superman and Lois. We've got the CW. You know, we've got the 80s and 90s Batman movies. We've got the 60s Batman movies. DC have had so many interpretations of these characters, and it's ingenious that to play the multiverse card, to do this, is going to bring everything together. And yeah, I understand they're saying it's all canon. It's not really. You know, this is just an excuse to get the Snyder stuff away. That is, let's be honest, that is plainly why they're doing it. You know, they've disguised it in a way to sort of go, by the way, you know, Snyder's still canon, but he's not.
But the Flash movie shooting in April, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. I was talking about this last stream as well, about the whole, they're starting their new fiscal year, because fiscal years, they start in April. So they're starting it with the Flash. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like a big deal. You know what I'm saying? That's a big deal. That means they're 100% like in like Flash and trying to make it a great film. I don't know how you fail if you have Michael Keaton as Batman, right? Like, I don't know how that movie's going to fail.
You don't?
Yeah.
You don't?
Yeah, I know. It's like a guaranteed $1 billion because everybody fucking loves Michael Keaton. And yeah, I made this suggestion that, you know, there's a lot of potential here with Michael Keaton's Batman, right? There's a lot, like, he's an old Batman. Yeah. You could do Dark Knight Returns with him. You know, you could do Batman Beyond with him. We could finally get these movies. That's the opening they got with Michael Keaton. But I really feel like Michael Keaton is just there as like the intermediate Batman, right? Like, he's going to be there for Flashpoint and maybe a couple more movies, and then you're going to get a new Batman that's, you know, makes more sense for the Justice League, right? Like, I think you're right.
But I think the fact is they've basically given Matt Reeves complete control over what he's doing. So I think it would be wrong to people say just replace Ben Affleck. I think that they don't want to disrespect Matt Reeves. I think that they believe in Matt Reeves. That looks bloody shit hot, that movie. So I don't think they want to, you know, go against Matt Reeves. I think they're committed to his Batman universe, whatever they're calling it. And I think putting Michael Keaton, already a known Batman, he's not a threat to Robert Pattinson. You know, the fact that he can just slot in as the older Batman. Michael Keaton, you know, he's nearly 69, but did you watch Spider-Man Homecoming just a couple of years ago? The guy looks incredible. If I look like that when I'm 69, man, I don't know, man. But Michael Keaton fitting in there, he's already got a fan base. He's going to drag the general audience in. And for a Batman who, he probably will be in the suit, maybe in the Flash, but he's literally just going to be the string puller, the Nick Fury. He's maybe going to be the guy who goes around all these, you know, new characters' solo movies, asking them to join the Justice League. You know, that's all it's going to be. And like you said, hopefully, you know,
Batman Beyond movie. Come on now. Give me it.
Listen, it could go down the Batman Beyond. Also, it could be he's Batman for a couple of years, and then maybe in a few years' time they do a Crisis on Infinite Earths type movie, and they bring Robert Pattinson over to be Batman once he's done his trilogy. They could do that. You know.
I would love if they did that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I
think that's in the back of their mind.
Yeah, it's got to be. I mean, there's just so many possibilities, and there's so much potential with this Michael Keaton Batman. I mean, a lot of people are just like upset because Ben Affleck's not Batman anymore. Like that's what they're thinking about. You know, like, so like, he doesn't want to be Batman. You got Michael Keaton that might have signed on for way more films than just this one film. Like, there's no way Michael Keaton just signed on for one fucking film. You know what I'm saying? Like, at least 3. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's ready to go.
Well, I think, and the thing is, well, Ben Affleck, do you not think when they were planning this out that they didn't go to Ben Affleck and ask Ben Affleck, do you want this cameo deal? And Ben Affleck is clearly turned around and went, no, he's not wanting to do it. Ben Affleck, listen to the guy. He's telling you, I am not, I didn't plan on doing this long term. And Ben Affleck he's a busy filmmaker. He's got so many projects coming up. Like I said to you, he's booked till 2025. We wouldn't get his solo Batman movie if it was to come out until at least 2026. That's a long, long time away. And I think that unfortunately Ben Affleck isn't interested. So if Ben Affleck's not interested, Warner Bros. Have to act. They have to have a Batman in the DCEU. They can't just go with Aquaman and Wonder Woman. Although I do think that is the plan, sort of, to have them head up the franchise. Like they'll be Michael Keaton will be in the background, type, floating in and out, a movie's waving, hi, it's Bruce Wayne, maybe giving them a bit of tech here or there. I think that will be the case. I don't expect Michael Keaton to be suiting up every single movie, although that would be really cool if that did happen.
I mean, yeah, I wonder if they're going to go with like the Tim Burton style Batman suit for him too. Like, what are they going to do? Like, I don't know. It would be awesome though if they somehow got Jack Nicholson to be Joker again, even though he died in that Batman film. I think that would be amazing. Old Joker, old Batman, they're fighting. Yeah, multiverse shit. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, we're not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. People keep saying, people there are constantly saying, "Oh, how would Michael Keaton's Batman for Tim Burton's world fit in the DCEU?" That isn't how it's going to work. Once the time he's in that world, he's not in Tim Burton's world anymore. That Tim Burton Batman will always be in that world. He's not coming from that world. He is just in this new Flash world. And I hope the Flash movie explains that at the end. I hope it's like, at the end of the film, Barry maybe runs back to meet Bruce to sort of speak to him and say, oh my God, guess who I met? I met the OG Batman. But obviously when he goes back, he maybe meets Gal, Jason, Michael Keaton, blah, blah, blah. Maybe they might even meet Zachary Levi's Shazam, because that's going to start shooting early this year as well. So all these films will be shooting at the same time, so there's no reason why they can't throw them all in for cameos, in a quick scene.
Right. I mean, they're going to be shooting a lot of films this year too, because they got the time. Corona, you can't really come out with it. You got to shoot them all right now. But yeah. I think that's going to wrap it up. We've been on for an hour. I like to keep it around that time for the streams. But I had a great time talking with you, dude. Lots of great points, great ideas here. All right. Much more so than the fucking Lightcast pod. Okay. All right. Let's stretch it out here. You know what I'm saying? All right.
Maybe we should be like the Lightcast, and we should come up with crazy rumors.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we should come up with stuff and lie. Just say that we've heard that Ben Affleck is currently shooting a Superman movie right now. This is the sort of thing they come out with.
Steppenwolf is going to be in Flashpoint. They're going to redesign. Yeah, it's going to be great. But yeah, man. Thanks everybody for joining us. I'm glad to have you back again for more in the future.
Of course, definitely.
All right, so bye everybody. I'll see y'all later.
See you later, guys. Bye bye.